Hello and welcome to my channel. So this one's going to be about the matriarchal energy and the rise. Now there's many connotations you can take to this, but this one's going to be about a Kabbalic stream within an underpinning of the Kabbalic stream and how we can rise through a matriarchal energy, because it's being attacked right now, and I guess it has been through time, and this is sort of like the patriarch versus the matriarch. So I'm going to go into this. I'm going to talk about how the matriarch energy can be taken down and out by the patriarchal energy, how this has happened over time, and sort of bring this together. I was just given some flowers. And they are beautiful. They're so pretty, look. They got some lilies, some white roses, and some red roses, and some little daisies. Right, so matriarchal energy in this era. Alright, so let's go way back. How are we able to underpin a patriarchal rise over the matriarchal energy, and how this has actually happened in the past? How we can understand this and bring this forward into this era. So how can we sort of like understand where a matriarchal energy has been dominated by a patriarchal energy? Patriarchal, because let's be honest, the patriarchal energy isn't actually negative, and neither is the matriarchal energy, but it's almost like a play on words. So I just want to say that first, because you can get bad women and you can get bad men, and this isn't about me, because I'm not bad, okay? This is why I'm telling you, because I have heart and love, and I feel like I want to help people from being trapped in these energies. So there's a difference between what I'm trying to get across, because I'm not like that, I've just observed it. There's a difference between people who are bad, understand aspects of matriarchal energy, people who are good, understand aspects of matriarchal energy, okay? You could be high paying top positions and still be a bad matriarchal energy, okay, for the people, and make bad decisions, okay? So I'm not saying it's like matriarch is a feminine energy and then a patriarch is a masculine energy, and it's which one versus this one, because it's simply not like that, and it's not. But as an archetypal energy, to say a matriarchal energy is, you know, a good feminine archetype, and the patriarch is the dominant factor, there's a good cause to bring this about, because when we have good functions within our society and they're not corrupt, well, this would be underpinning that kind of definition, that they work together. The woman brings an aspect of matriarch, which is an energy of understanding, and the masculine would bring an aspect of teaching, a hierophant energy, like this. Feminine, the masculine. So this is in a good way. So we can underpin, you know, good things through this. We can use as a feminine archetypal energy, as a matriarchal type energy. We can underpin this as bringing an aspect of understanding and truth from that space. You know, we can do that as a matriarchal energy. And the patriarchal energy would be an aspect of wisdom, so they would have acquired that knowledge. So if they haven't acquired that knowledge, then they're not a hierophant. It doesn't matter where you sit. It doesn't matter how high your positions are financially. It doesn't matter. Okay? It just means that if there are people in them higher fractions that are dominating, and they're not aspects of wisdom or Binar, then we have broken a tree from a societal concept. Okay? It means our tree as a society is broken and it needs to be fixed. Because there's people in positions that they shouldn't be in. It means that there's an aspect of a level of corruption taking place so high you can't even tell. They can't even tell themselves, probably. But they're down here. So they think they're up here, but they're actually not. They're down here. And then the people that are actually up here are getting ignored. And that's usually how it works when it comes to financial-based systems within the government and also within occult topics, because the occult topics are also based on what you know, what you can share, but it's also, to them, an aspect of power, right? And the only reason how they can rise in this era, really, understanding aspects of understanding, and is because they have to gain more power to be able to do that. So, and they're also told what to do as well and what to say, because they believe in like spirits, and they believe that like there's a hierarchy and a higher self and stuff like this, when it's not, it's in you. So this is how you can get controlled. This is how people can earn lots of money as well, because they want to make you provide for their agenda. That makes sense? So as I go, this is a matriarchal versus the patriarchal, this is a rise, understanding these concepts. There's also a big disillusionment in that concept of a matriarch or a patriarchal energy. Like I said, you get men and women, they both do it. They can both do it, and it's because they bear a tree of that themselves. Okay. So, what do I mean in these definitions and terms? What is understanding aspects of a matriarchal energy? It's being a mother. It's being a mum. Matriarch is a mother energy. It's a mother archetype. Alright, so this is a matriarchal energy. Okay, this is a mother. This is somebody who has had children, bore children, and raised them. Okay, raised them. Like looked after them, nurtured them, fed them, clothed them, loved them. Love. That's what that is. And it's not just about, it's about rising them in understanding. So if they've hurt themselves, you can rise that child. If they've, in aspects of wisdom as well, right? So, matriarch is really about a woman birthing a child. So it's almost like the church coming out of those doors. It's a birth, right? It's a birth energy. This is what it's meant to be, right? This is what it was back in the day, right? So it's almost like you're rebirthing yourself. And it is like that. It's religious underpinnings. It's rebirths, right? So you go in there, like I think in Christian, you go in there, tell them your sins, priests, and then you're forgiven, you leave. It's a rebirth, right? This is that concept. But it's almost like the church is a vagina, a BB, and you're leaving, you're rebirthing. So this is like a matriarchal understanding. You know, you nurture and then you rebirth. So you can do this as a natural nurturing instinct, because it comes with you, doesn't it? Especially after you've had children. Okay, so this is like something that you can't forget. Once you've birthed, you don't forget that. You have the power to rise to Binar. So simple. And this is how mothers who have looked after and nurtured their children can do this. It's easy. for them. It's easy. That's how you'll do it. It's easy. And some people can be like stuck in judgment and wisdom, but you have to understand that you can master an aspect of understanding, and it's so easy because you've physically gone through that process. As an understanding and an archetypal energy as a church, right? So, you can't tell somebody that they're not a mum anymore, that you can't tell somebody that they can't provide a nurturing space just because a man with a beard said no, because he ticked the wrong boxes, because he lied, kind of stuff. So that's like not a God concept either. That's just like a man concept. They know you're not good enough. And it's like, this is kind of how we can get mixed up with the patriarch energy, because there can be good men who have nurtured children, who don't see that the woman is necessarily bad. They know who the woman is because she's done those things, and there's a level of respect that should take place there. And when it doesn't, it means that that person, that man, that masculine energy, hasn't risen to his wisdom yet. It means that he hasn't reached it. So instead he's going to fight her. And he might do it violently, he might do it through a court system, he might do it through an emotional way, because he hasn't understood the true aspect of being able to talk, being able to express, being able to rise to a wisdom concept. Okay, this is how breakdowns in marriages, in being with somebody, being co-parenting, this is how it can fall, this is how it can break. And it can also happen on the matriarchal side, where you're full of judgment and you don't want that around. But if you're doing it under an aspect of care and nurture, protection, so if like someone takes lots of drugs, then they shouldn't be around that child unsupervised. This is like kind of a court system process that's supposed to take place, right? So if it doesn't, then it just goes to show that there's a level of corruption within a state, within a corruption within society. You haven't actually risen yourself to an aspect of wisdom yourself as a professional body. You haven't risen to an aspect of binar. Maybe you don't nurture your children properly and you've pushed it onto other people as a mirage. And this is how a degradation of state takes place, because you haven't understood your own lessons. So you're pushing it onto other people. Now, this can happen through understanding aspects of matriarchal energy and patriarchal energy, because it fails to recognize the truth, because it's crown energy. I know, because you've probably been pulled down by other people that you have to work for. So you've been pulled down by them because they're not in their I know energies either, right? They don't want to propose a truth because they lack it too. So what are they doing there? You know? What are they doing there? Right? So this is where we can sort of come to understand that how a matriarchal energy and a patriarchal energy can be that distorted. We can argue it to be a patriarch where they want to make you all fall or make women fall. But it could actually be a woman at the top doing it. You ever thought about that? Right? So it depends on what kind of energy that's generated and where it's coming from originally. And, also it depends on what policies and stuff, especially when it comes to a systematic process, what kind of policies that are being pushed down and who's doing that. So this is where you got to look. Who made them decisions under those policies? Who said that this was going to happen? And this is the red tape kind of stuff, where it's all hidden. So this is like where they can just kind of like make it trickle down, say it's all the people, and it's actually not. It's just a broken tree aspect on the Kabbalah through a systematic process to make fallacies take place and then kind of just blame people and then do it anyway. So this is why, dominoes, and this is also why how you've broken other people's tree just to benefit your own, which could be an aspect of corruption taking place on a high scale that's been dismantled through a business project as well. This is another archetypal energy where companies or businesses can take over, and the sectors are so high in the level of corruption that's taking place, it can actually form a dismantle of a state. And this is kind of like how policies can be hidden, but yet they blame the people instead, because it's never a bottom top perspective, because the power is always at the top. So it always has to be a structured process. And then once it starts trickling through, usually it's too late for all the people at the bottom who's being sort of sacrificed, if you like, by a policy that somebody's made behind closed doors, right? This is why I question what's the point. Like in making decisions, because you already know what you're going to do. Like you already decided what you was going to do in the first place. So it's just an aspect of corruption, right? It doesn't matter what the truth is. It's just going to happen type thing, which is actually a level of corruption that's taking place in a state. And that's true. And it's got nothing to do with a matriarch or a patriarchal energy, right? Because women do it to other women. For example, women bully other women in many ways. It's like playground stuff, isn't it? It's pathetic what you're doing when it comes to things like that. It makes you think, like, why are you back at school? What, you integrated your innocence, have you? Is that what you were like when you was a child, is it? Around bullying people? Does it benefit you, does it? That's what's funny. That's what's more funny about anything than anything else. Because I'm not a bully. I never was. I was a kind, caring child. So I know my innocence is intact. No matter what you do to me, mate, I know my innocence is intact. Right? So, let's go into this. You have the feminine archetypal energy and then the patriarchal energy, right? So it might be a bloke at the top, for example, and then they claim it's a patriarchal state, but you've got the matriarch that's got to agree with it up there as well, okay? This is why isn't man versus patriarch versus matriarch, because you've got to have both at the top to distinguish and accept these factors that are taking place. For it to fall down within society, for them to accept it as well, because they have to, otherwise they'll lose their jobs and stuff, or whatever. They might lose something else, they might be threatened, right? There's aspects of sacrifice or a significance in a role, and then try and play it off of other people. So, like, they have to do it, right? And this is how it works. And it's not an aspect of acceptance, what I'm saying, because you should change your ways, right? Or it's too late. Because what you'll find is you'll end up being the fall for it in the long run. You might just be a bystander, not even realise what's going on, and end up being a fall for it, because you haven't understood from the beginning what's been taking place and why. So you can actually be the fall guy or fall girl, right? Which is absolute garbage, because we all know that it's not us, and it's an aspect of what's going on up here behind closed doors. This is why I say up here it's hidden, because it's what's behind closed doors. But we already know as an aspect of I know, because that's ours. But if somebody's like controlling your life, this is where it's at. And if someone's making judgments over you in your life, again, this is where it's at. But they're doing it to that other person as well who's claiming to make the judgment. And I'm not, like I said just a minute ago, I'm not saying that you're okay for this. I'm saying that you're actually wrong, because you're smashing your own tree as well up here. You smashed your own tree. So if you're sitting here making judgments about people who've done this, that and the other, I don't know, could be a man You know, this is their tree. So it could be a man making a judgment, passing over. You're just the do man, yes man. You ever seen that, Jim Carrey? The yes man, right? This is what this is. So it's like an aspect of you being the I do person. Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do that. But you know that it's wrong because you've reached it. You're sitting there going, I made a mistake. Oh no. And then they try and hide it. They fall back down here and try and judge you because they know they're wrong for it. And it's not funny because you smashed your own crown. You smashed your own, not smashed your own crown. You've smashed out your own aspects of understanding and wisdom because you can't handle a truth that what you've done is wrong. Okay, in your aspects of making them judgments. You know, so you know it don't matter how much you get paid for your job. It don't matter how much you. Don't matter. The truth is the truth. You know, you can push things like you think you have the answers, or you know, you can be cruel, okay, because this is what's going on under a guise of a matriarch or a patriarchal saying. It's men versus women, okay. This is another thing. It's not men versus women. This is a sexist way to see something. It's an aspect of sexism, but as a trickle down concept, it might be seen as that. Why? Because the matriarch is the mother energy. She bears the children. So in the Middle East, she bears the children. She has the kids. The men don't have the kids. Not in their countries, right? They're their babies, right? They came through them, okay? So it's they're actually theirs. So, you know, I think people don't like it when women say this, like the children are theirs. They bore their children, so the children are theirs type thing. And the men are the nest. They go round and help the woman so she can nurture them children. So the man nurtures the woman to nurture the children. So this is usually like in a Jewish concept or in a Muslim tradition. This is how it is. And they're older religions, and I think it's in the Sikh one as well, right? I think it is. The woman bears the children; they're hers. She holds onto them. I think the birds do it as well. You know, the birds do it as well. So it's kind of like that kind of understanding that you can take from it. So a matriarch is the one that bears the children. So this is a different concept. So if we're talking about patriarchal versus matriarch, it's a swaying pendulums of dichotomies. It's not actually a man versus woman concept because they work together for the children, for their trees. I hope you know where I'm going with this. So it's not necessarily a negative thing, but we've got to understand where your position lies. Because you can actually end up breaking them children's trees just by not understanding the process of life. They all say, "Oh, you don't. Life doesn't come with a manual." But it does. They taught us in religion, didn't they? They taught us this in religion. So it's natural for women as well to understand it like this. So when the man can't reach that aspect of understanding, it can break. The relationship can fall apart. Let's get back to the analogy where the man isn't quite up there yet. He might have acquired that love and that understanding and talk about it, but he might not have mastered that wisdom, which is the pearls. It's the experiences in life that's took them where they need to be, which everyone can do this, but it's the acquirement of understanding the wisdom that's been applied to this. Like, so if something bad happens to you, why don't I commit that on against somebody else? Which is a fall of judgment if you don't understand that you can come away from judging yourself and understanding maybe how you was taught when you grew up. Did you have a mum around? What was she trying to teach you? Because it might not all be good, but you can take aspects of that wisdom with you to understanding so you can rise through that. So you don't have to be completely negate of understanding your wisdom just because somebody didn't treat you right in an I do aspect. You take what's good and what's bad about that. Okay? So this is how you can acquire pearls of wisdom. And I think it's really hard for men in this realm, in this reality, this time zone, because they don't get much help. I mean, there was a lot of discussion about this, that men don't get help and single men below 25 don't really get much help. And you only do if you get taken in by like grandfather energy to rise to that perspective, understand it. So you need good archetypal energies that have already reached it. And I think it can be quite difficult for some men because they've come from broken families and stuff like this. So they have to acquire that knowledge. And I think this is where rabbis can come into it, you know, like, because they've reached an aspect of that. That's why they're teaching. So it's almost like religion is a good way to fall back onto stuff. When it comes to the man, Jewish wisdom comes to the man, listening, and stuff like this. So if I was to argue, is it a feminine, matriarchal energy or patriarchal energy dominating society? Well, I would say it isn't. I would say it's a fall of a societal construct. Instead of it being man versus woman, matriarch versus patriarch, is a fall of a construct. So it would be whatever suits the agenda at the time. So it will be stuff like, if this energy has been taken under an aspect of corruption, so a mothering concept is being smashed, it's because they're also going to do it to this side as well. But if they haven't acquired it, they might see this person more worthy because this bit of their tree smashed, so they can't understand it. Who's the one who's passing judgment? So this is how they can smash their own stuff. And they sit here, but they might see this person as more worthy because this person's not allowed to be a judgmental person. This person is meant to be seen as supportive, but what if that person isn't even there to show that? And then there's other people working behind the scenes to do that for them, to cradle them. This is the patriarch, to cradle them. They'll never reach this because they don't understand, because they didn't acquire it, because they left. They cut their own tree off as well. So we can understand how, you know, there can be a rise patriarch, a rise of matriarch, but the reality is, and it stands, is that if you haven't achieved this part of this or remembered it, that's where you are. That's where you are. There. And you can pass judgment on these. Like they're not good enough because you can't even see it. If you provide that evidence, that I know energy, but it doesn't mean anything because you haven't acquired these. You haven't acquired wisdom. You just acquired this splendor and judgment. And it can be for your own personal gain. Whatever's going through your head. If it's an aspect of being controlled by a higher force, is that actually a higher force in reality? You know? And it's almost like saying, God told me to do this, God told me to do that. Like you hear about all the time, being like, yeah, God told me to do da-da-da-da. And they didn't, you know, and they just did a mass sacrifice, for example, on people down the street. Like, it sounds like something's crazy and need help, but this is kind of like where it's almost like it can be as simple as saying in a position of power, your boss telling you to do something because that's what's right at the time, but it's not. It's the same concept as doing that. But that's in a professional system, in a systematic process, and then that's doing it in the street because they've got some mental issues and they've just sacrificed those people on the street. And it's just the same thing. As if you're in a aspect of judgment, you're being told to do it from somebody else. And then you're passing judgment. Why? Because you're just going to fall down here. You smashed your own tree. You don't come to an aspect of understanding in this lifetime about this. You have to go back and do it again. And this is the concept of like how lifetimes and lifetimes can sort of like entwine with each other as well. And it's not about sometimes matriarchal dominance or a patriarchal dominance. It's about coming together and understanding that you both have to work together. But you have to be good at your job. You have to work on yourself. Because give it 10 years time, when, you know, the agendas have changed, and then you have to go forward in that, and society's changed, and they all start realising that they've made all these mistakes under a patriarchal, matriarchal system, supposedly what may be patriarchal, maybe, and people have made loads of mistakes, and we'll see a degradation of a state in about 10 years time, so it'll trickle through. Give it a decade, and what will happen is they'll start to see where it's gone wrong, and you can't blame other people. You will only have yourselves to look at, because this is an understanding that it's not about a patriarchal or matriarchal rise. You can understand the matriarchal rise in a different concept, like you have bearing children. A patriarchal understand that bearing children, how that can work together, because you help that child, right? So we can understand it from that perspective, and understand it from a societal perspective, where people are making decisions and it's behind closed doors and we don't know what's going on. And then you've got a God aspect telling you under a thingy, like a crazy person, supposedly, going around saying, oh, they told me to do it, it's voices in my head, right? So this is like how the dominance can take place in a spiritual realm, and then it could be a man or a woman. Dominance side could be taken in a physical realm, in a systematic process. And it's quite sad, really, because the understanding aspects of matriarch and patriarch is a sexist position. So you can fall all the way back down and go, matriarch versus patriarch. And that's what this is about. But we can also understand it through aspects of sexism. So it might be, you know, sexism, which has been an aspect of equality. In I know energies, I know people should be equal. So this is where I come from. So if I was to come from the moon concept, where I'm experiencing sexism, then it would be a different understanding. So we can get into this and argue that men might be jealous of that woman for acquiring what she's acquired and being able to do it all by herself. So men can be jealous because they might not have had it, like that love. So they try and take because they might not have had it. So they don't want anyone else to have it. So this is how it can happen, how it can trickle out, where you can actually see sexism in society and how it can enforce an aspect of injustice upon this plane through the masculine dominance, not an actual sex, but a masculine dominance, where they take, right, through being a sexist personality, or as a jealousy, or as somebody who doesn't want somebody to have what they have because they're jealous. Like they might be rich and everything, they might be millionaire, still jealous. So they can. It's just an example. Just an example. But this can be why things like this can happen. So they can use sexism, race, age, gender, and disability against people, because they don't want you to have an aspect of justice within you. And this happens. It's got nothing to do with masculine or feminine energies, because they're both fruitful in nature. They're both fruitful. So it can be actually an aspect, an underpinning of a disadvantage that you might be faced with in society, which they can pick on anything, can't they? Disability, race, age, gender, sex. They can pick on anything, can't they? So usually these are the targets. These are the targets. And it's sad, really. It's not really about sexism, but it can be. But that'd be a personal, individual choice to do that to somebody else. And, you know, it can create divisions within society on purpose. Just to make us not like each other on purpose. It's sad, really. Because, you know, it's a hierarchy push down, and then they argue it's just the people. But society constructs the world. Society teaches us, and this is how we grow. So it's not just a mum and a dad, it's secondary peer factors like school, stuff like this. So this is how society can condition us into pushing us into them spaces anyway. So it's different. It's not about a matriarch or a patriarchal energy, archetypal energy overruling, unless there is just one man at the top and he's doing it all, or there's one woman at the top doing it all. But I highly doubt it. My name's Gemma Haley. I'm a criminologist, mother of 2, and an advanced occultist. Take care.